Good morning, good afternoon, hello. I know we're in different time zones, so it might be evening or afternoon or morning for some people. Thank you so much for joining us for our session. I truly apologize for the delay, and thank you for bearing with us. So I have the exciting honor to introduce our speaker for this presentation section. So we have Joshua Owande, who is currently a PhD candidate pursuing a doctorate degree in peace and conflict studies at Masinde, Muliro University of Science and Technology in the Department of Peace and Conflict Studies. He graduated with a Master's of Arts in Peace Education from the University of Nairobi in 2015. He did his Bachelor of Education Arts from the same university in 2011, with specialization in geography and Kiswahili. Joshua has a strong passion for peace, and it's his desire to be a part of the change that will see the world become a more peaceful and habitable place. Without further ado, Joshua, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that awesome introduction. As you've been told, my name is Joshua Owande, and today I'm going to present on the influence of involving prefects in arbitration on conflict resolution in public secondary schools, a case study of Kisumu County, Kenya. Introduction. Background to the study. Now, conflict is understood to occur when two or more values or perspectives and opinions are contradictory in nature and have not been aligned or agreed to. That's according to Lockwood 1997. Now, this may occur within oneself when one is not living according to the other's values, when values and perspectives are threatened, or discomfort from fear of the unknown or from lack of fulfillment. That's according to Romani et al. 2010. It is understood that conflict is inevitable in any institution. And so a learning institution is not any different. At any given time, we expect conflicts to arise. And therefore, it is necessary that appropriate measures are put in place to avert the occurrence of such conflicts. And that is when we think of bringing in the prefects. Prefects are known to be the student leaders. They are in charge of the students within the institution. And therefore, when we bring them on board to take their roles, to take up their roles amongst their peers, then such an institution is likely to do well in terms of conflict resolution. Now, we've heard of cases where students have had a long period of unresolved conflicts. And as such conflicts grow and emanate into student unrest or riots amongst them. And so it is a wise idea to bring these students on board so that they are able to take the lead in arbitration of the conflicts that may arise amongst them. Now, this study was conducted. The study was conducted within Kisumu County, and it took care of the key stakeholders that are concerned with matters of a conflict resolution in institution. And in the study, we used the school principals who are at the center stage of conflict resolution and management. We also looked at the teachers, especially those who are concerned with the guidance and counseling. We also involve the prefects themselves as well as the students, fraternity. Now, this was done so as to give us a clear view of the perceptions of the stakeholders that they have concerning the involvement of students, prefects, in the arbitration process and its expected impact or influence on conflict resolution. Moving forward, now, yes, moving forward, it can be all right. Now I'm there. Oh, okay. So it has been a big problem in the country because frequently the country has experienced an array of conflicts, and so there's been a need to carry out a study to find out a long-lasting solution to this kind of problem. And so a number of researchers have come up in an attempt to unravel what could be the problem and how it could be solved. Now, as such, this study aimed at finding out the influence of involving prefects in the management of conflict resolution in public secondary schools within Kisumu County. Now, the objective was to establish the influence of involving prefects in arbitration on conflict resolution in public secondary schools. Now, this study was also justified philosophically and academically. So, in passing, in literature review, now, the researcher reviewed a number of literature, of the relevant literature regarding conflict resolution in schools. And so, according to Fisher 2000, schools can be places where children learn to live in harmony with one another as they prepare to become useful members of the society. Now, Fisher argues that arbitration skills are essential to public life in school, communities, and even workplaces. And so they need to introduce these arbitration skills in early stages of the education system is mandatory. As such, this study was also informed by a theory of the social systems theory. Now, this theory explains that in any given institution, there is need to work together to bring all the aspects, all the sub-departments of the institution together. Now, it likens this to a living organism that has got various organs that must work together so as to achieve a common goal. Now, in an institution like a school in our case now, a school is a system that has got various sub-departments, and so there is need now to bring all these sub-departments together. Now, of importance is the student council, and so there is need to bring students together and take part wholly in the management and resolution of conflicts. And that is the point where the prefects now come in. There is need to involve them in decision making, in arbitration, and handling of matters and conflicts that may arise in a school. And so, if that happens, then we will end up with a peaceable learning institution. Methodology. Now, this study applied what we call the descriptive survey design, and this was deemed fit because it gave opportunity for the respondents to describe the features, the occurrence, and the individual views, the attitudes, the preferences, and perceptions with regards to the subject of study. That's according to Rodo 2004. Further, the target population of this study comprised of the 33 public secondary schools, and out of these secondary schools, the researcher focused on, as I had said earlier, focused on the school principals, focused on the teachers, that is the guidance and counseling teachers, the prefects, and the students. Now, this was done in such a way that the researcher ended up with 426 respondents. Now, the sampling procedure, a sample of one principal per school was picked, guidance and counseling, also one teacher, and of course, we did this for all the 10 schools. So that meant that we ended up with 10 guidance and counseling teachers. We also ended up with 10 school principals and also the students. Now, students were picked depending on whether they were prefects or they were just the civilian students. So this was done in such a way that we ended up with a sample size of 426. Now, coming to the data collection, now the researcher obtained permission from the relevant authorities, and including the schools where these interviews are to be conducted. We also sought the consent of the participants in the study, and so he ensured that no one was coerced to take part in this research, but they did so on their own volition. Now, the research instruments were validated using various methods, like the content validity was checked. We also sought the opinions of the experts as well as the supervisors. Reliability of instruments, again, were also ascertained using the split up method, where the researcher correlated the data using the Pearson correlation coefficient, R, and the value of 0.87 was obtained. Now, this was good enough because it indicated that the instruments were highly reliable. Now, data analysis, the data was analyzed into two categories. We had the quantitative and qualitative data, and the raw data, that was the raw qualitative data, quantitative data, majorly from the questionnaires, were carefully examined for any errors, and then they were corrected appropriately. Now, the qualitative data were also collected, gathered, and then they were put into a form that could be easily understood. Now, the researcher created what we call the initial codes, which were then reviewed and combined into themes. Thereafter, the responses in the completed questionnaires and the interviews guides were then coded, tabulated, analyzed, and computed into descriptive statistics, of course, with the use of the SPSS version 24. Now, later on, the results of the data analysis were presented in form of percentages and frequency distribution tables. The ethical consideration, the researcher observed this very well. Now, I took permission and informed consent from the relevant authorities, and I also ensured anonymity and confidentiality and reciprocity as well. Now, plagiarism was also observed, and the work was subjected to uh, anti-plagiarism system that ensured that there was no plagiarism at all. Uh, then we also had anonymity, confidentiality, and reciprocity. Now, the researcher obliged to keep the respondents anonymous and to treat all the data provided with high levels of confidentiality. Now, the researcher assured to reciprocate by sharing findings of the study with the key participants. Moving on to the results. Now, the results were obtained as follows. Remember, this study sought to find out the influence of involving prefects in arbitration on conflict resolution in public secondary schools. And therefore, we interviewed the school principals who were allowed to respond to this by either agreeing or strongly agreeing or just being neutral, disagree, or they could also strongly disagree. So for the principals, 60% of them agreed that involving prefects in arbitration would enhance conflict resolution in public secondary schools. And 40% again of the very principals also agreed that if we involve prefects in arbitration process, then that would enhance conflict resolution in public secondary schools. Now, for the guidance and counseling teachers, 40% of them are strongly agreed that involving prefects in arbitration processes would enhance conflict resolution, while 50% of them agreed. However, coming to the prefects, now 33% 0.93 of the prefects strongly agreed that if they were involved in arbitration processes, then they would help in enhance conflict resolution in their respective institutions. Now, for another 51.79%, they agreed that yes, that would really enhance conflict resolution, while 5.36% remained neutral. Another 3.57% of these students disagreed. We also had 5.36% of the student or the prefects that strongly disagreed. Then the last category of respondents here, we had the students. The students whom 24.29% strongly agreed that involving prefects in arbitration processes would really enhance conflict resolution in the institution, while 35.14% agreed. Neutral, we had 15.43, and 16.57% disagreed. Of course, we also had 8.57 students who strongly disagreed. These categories of and now this was shown by the majority of each category of respondents who either agreed or strongly agreed to this. Now, timely and effective arbitration reduces confusion and frustration, hence harmonious coexistence in the school setup. Now, this is in tandem with the Mukiri 2015. Now, in summary, in conclusion, now based on the findings of this research, it was therefore concluded that involving prefects in arbitration enhances conflict resolution in public secondary schools. And therefore, institutions are therefore encouraged to adopt this, as it will help them, control and handle matters of conflicts in their respective schools. That brings me to the end, because I can see time again is not on our side. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for that amazing presentation. We have two questions that I'm going to read both of them so that we just take them at the same time because of time. So the first one is, how are prefects chosen in these situations? And the second one is, what happens after arbitration of these conflicts? Is there ever a chance to reconcile the underlying causes, or is that part of the arbitration process?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Now, in response to the first question, now in this instance, the prefects are elected democratically, a situation where the prefects are, the election of the prefects is given to the entire student fraternity. So they are not being handpicked by any authority, but the students themselves decides who to become their prefects. And so when it comes to arbitration, then these students ought to have been given some kind of training. And so they have got the skills that it takes to undertake arbitration process. So once a student has been picked to arbitrate a matter, then we expect this to be consensual, so that the two parties involved in this conflict agree on their arbitrator, who in this case is the prefect. So unless this matter is so grave that it cannot be arbitrated by the prefects, it will be taken to another level, and that is when it is now taken to the administrative authority or administration, whereby we now leave it to the disciplinary committee or any other authority that's responsible for handling such conflicts in the school.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we cannot answer the last question because we have about 4 minutes till our next session. But Joshua, I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time to give us this presentation. And to our audience, we are going to make this session, the recording, available for you to also reference. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm humbled.